listening to Unravel with Natly Denise.
Good evening, good morning for those of you that listen to me as a morning show. This is Nightly with Natly, a segment of Unravel with Natly Denise. Very, very active Monday, might I add. We've got I'm just flashing my logos here. We've got the Ghislaine Maxwell trial that started today, and I will be going over a bit of that in the Daily TrafficK segment that I share here on this VOD, whatever you want to call it. And then just a lot of other things that are happening. As far as me, I have so much on my plate. I said this earlier today with a few friends of mine. It's as if I loaded up my Thanksgiving plate with 2 whole turkey breasts, mashed potatoes, asparagus, with a whole can of cranberry sauce and stuffing, a whole thing, a little glob of stuffing. And I'm eating all of it. I'm eating all of it all at once. So as you guys know, I am also promoting very heavily the National Education Summit on Human Trafficking. And that will be January 15th in Houston, Texas. If you can travel there and you are interested in learning a lot more about human trafficking, I would highly encourage you guys to please come out to the conference. It is at childproofamerica.org. That's where you can find a lot more information, including buying tickets. Also, guys, I launched Natly Denise Cosmetics. You guys can go to natlydenisecosmetics.com. I had a very successful launch. I'm very excited for that. And today I was just slammed with meetings. Other than that, I will continue posting, new photos of the makeup and swatches and all that fun stuff as I continue on. So tomorrow I'm gonna wake up pretty early. I like to, I'm vowing to myself to wake up earlier, because I just feel like, man, you just get so much more done throughout the day when you're 5 o'clock in the morning, wake up, go get your workout in, come back, get ready for the day. And then you just have hours along versus I was getting up at 9 o'clock, 8 o'clock in the morning. And it was just my day was already gone. Womp womp. So anyway, let's get into the news today. Like I mentioned, I will be mentioning just a little bit about the Ghislaine Maxwell trial, because I did make a video on that on my main channel. So if you have not seen that, go to my main channel on Natly Denise. I just made a video out there. And anyway, let me share my screen here. Share screen, boop, and boop. And let's get started. Let's get into the news. All right, we'll begin with this. Scandal over at CNN. Chris Cuomo. As you guys know, Chris Cuomo is the brother of the late disgraced Governor Andrew Cuomo. And as you guys may know, there were a lot of sexual assault allegations against Andrew Cuomo, which he got impeached for. He's no longer in office as governor. So Chris Cuomo, actually, it is alleged that he wrote rebuttals and used the show to attack the media for overhyping Omicron variant. Host takes it on air before he says his fate would be decided in the next several days. So just an overview, newly released text. So show how CNN host Chris Cuomo helped strategize his brother's response to sexual harassment allegations. He returned to host his show after the Thanksgiving break, but did not mention the scandal. So we're just going to mention just a little bit of this. I don't want to bore you guys with the Cuomos, because obviously they're already so controversial, and obviously they're enough in itself, all their little scandals. What up? I see you guys shouting your locations. I see Santa Fe, New Mexico, Denver, Colorado, Arkansas. Welcome, you guys. Let's get started. Chris Cuomo returned to CNN host this show on Monday night after the Thanksgiving break and pointedly ignored revelations that he advised his brother Andrew on his response on the sexual harassment scandal, despite Chris insisting that he was not deeply involved. CNN said that their star host fate will be decided in the next several days. He ain't going to get nothing. After did the damning text show that he helped his brother use sources to dig up dirt on the accuser's moves that drew an ire of the former governor's first accuser. Bombshell documents released on Monday by the office of the New York Attorney General Letitia James show that Chris exchanged dozens of texts with his brother Andrew top aide Melissa DeRosa. Chris Cuomo told investigators under oath that they had irregular contacts. I forgot to mention this is coming from the Daily Mail. The 51-year-old news anchor used his show on Monday to discuss Omicron, the new cocoa variant, and the row between far-right Congresswoman Lauren Boebert and Ilhan Omar, the Muslim Congresswoman representing Minnesota. I don't know what's wrong with me. When he discussed smash and grab robberies across the country and rising crime, he did not discuss the saga involving his involvement with his brother's situation, despite previously having vowed to be open with his viewers. Chris had a difficult time trying to judge when to discuss the scandal and when to ignore it. On March 1st, he said he was aware of the accusations about his brother after a third woman came forward to accuse him, but he could not report on it. Right. So I'm just going to move down to the text and see what exactly was implicated here. So rumor about Ronan getting ready to move. This was Chris Cuomo to Melissa DeRosa. Can you check your sources? If Ronan has nothing better than Boylan, that's a great sign. To discuss Ronan convo, did you get any more intel? Investigators asked Cuomo during an investigation about a March 2021 text where he wrote DeRosa, if Roman has nothing better than Boylan, then that's a great sign. He later elaborated on investigators that the concern was that Ronan always had more people. That was part of his currency as a journalist, is that people come to him and expand the understandings. I know he has his critics, but to me, that's when he has its best. So the assumption was that he has new people. He's waiting so long to have written about this, and then he didn't. So the context is specifically this. I had heard that all he was writing, the only person he was writing about was Lindsey Boylan. As you guys know, Lindsey Boylan was the first to come forward against Cuomo. So long story short, I don't mean to bore you guys, but basically Chris Cuomo used his sources to pretty much, in my opinion, he manipulated the situation for his brother, Andrew Cuomo. The truth came out anyway. In my opinion, it was a big... They elaborated more on this so that way Andrew Cuomo can leave his post, because there were deeper allegations of something completely different, and that was the nursing home scandal. So in my opinion, he got off of that thing scot-free because he had something. Now, this is not like any lesser, that's not what I'm saying, the sexual allegations, sexual assault. But in my opinion, I would have liked to see a lot more information come about the whole nursing home scandal, which I believe he escaped with this entire thing. So Chris Cuomo, we'll see. I don't think CNN's going to fire him, to be honest with you. I think they might give him like a leave or something like that. But anyway, that's the news on that. Let's switch gears here and go towards the Ghislaine Maxwell trial. So as you guys know, Ghislaine Maxwell trial started today on November 29th, 2021. And, I covered this pretty significantly on my main channel. I'm just going to kind of genericize everything that happened. There was opening arguments by the prosecution side, by the defense side. The prosecution side, I think the most controversial thing right now that people are kind of uneasy about is that James Comey's daughter is on the lead prosecution, or she's on the prosecution team. But, the opening argument seemed fair. I didn't see anything that would, allege that she was going to do anything different or, anything obscure. So we'll see. Now, the thing that I also went over in my main video is that this was not the first Epstein saga type of thing that Maureen Comey, who is the daughter of James Comey, she actually represented other cases within the Epstein saga. So first one being the Tartaglione, the roommate of Epstein. She was also part of another case back in 2019 before, I believe she was part of the team before Epstein, got, whatted in his cell. So anyway, the coverage today was really genericized. It was opening arguments. Some new details that we learned about this whole thing was that, there was going to be flight logs that were going to be used. And I am going to make a follow-up video later on tonight after this podcast. The FAA actually released more flight logs than they needed. And so we're going to get a little bit more into detail after this vodcast or podcast. And I'm going to get you guys that detail. But yeah, the FAA per FOIA request, they released a lot more detail that was necessary. Now, we did learn that it was confirmed today that the prosecution team on the Ghislaine Maxwell trial will be using or utilizing those flight logs to, as evidence or as an argument piece within the trial. But really, today, opening arguments were pretty. I'm not going to say they weren't a big deal, but it was pretty much the same things we've heard over and over. Ghislaine Maxwell, for the prosecution side, it's alleged that she was doing this for Epstein to support her lifestyle. That she was pretty indebted, or she was pretty tangible with Epstein's, I guess, his intention to sexually exploit these girls or these women, these girls at the time, because they were underage. And, that she was pretty much in conjunction with him. Now, the defense team, they put it on the standpoint that Ghislaine Maxwell was a scapegoat, that because Epstein wasn't here and Epstein wasn't present, he was no longer going to, basically, he wasn't going to be the basis of justice, that they're utilizing Ghislaine Maxwell as the scapegoat, and, that's not fair. That's what the defense team said. They also argued that the witnesses / the alleged victims, we can only say alleged now out of safety, that the alleged victims are actually out for money, that they're out for, that they're out for more, I guess, she made it sound like clout, in generics. She made it sound like these witnesses were out for, or the witnesses / victims were out for clout, for money, that, that they have clouded memories. They can't really remember. Their memories are contaminated, which I wouldn't say is a fair argument, because how would you know? How would you know that stuff? And so the defense, basically, there was a lot of harsh things that were said about that. But that's pretty much what happened today. Now, the first witness was called on to testify, and that is the pilot. The pilot by the name of Vysotsky, that's the last name. He actually began his testimony, and there wasn't a lot of detail until, Judge Nathan, who is the presiding judge, basically called it for the day. Now, I'm going to go over just a few little details. This is actually Matthew Russell. He's with Inner City Press. And this is what he had to say as a play-by-play, because I believe he had access, or he was, he had some sort of presence, whether he was listening in or he was at the trial. And this is what he had to as a play-by-play as far as the witness. Now, he did have a play-by-play with the opening prosecution and defense arguments, but I pretty much genericized everything. Ghislaine Maxwell was acted as a madame in a way. She went shopping with them. She sexualized them. She met them at a kids camp. Yeah. So again, that's on my main video. Now, this is some of the first witness. Witness is Lawrence Paul Vysotsky, nickname Larry. I am an airline pilot. Now, again, this is the first witness within the testimony or for the Ghislaine Maxwell trial. So Maureen Comey says, "Who did you work for?" And this is, again, she's on the prosecution team against Maxwell. And Vysotsky said, "Mr. Jeffrey Epstein." 𝘠𝑚𝐴, the prosecutor, said, "Where did Epstein hire you?" 𝐕𝘂𝑚 said, "Columbus, Ohio. David Rogers was hired too." 𝘠𝑚𝐴 then asked, "How long did Mr. Rogers work for Mr. Epstein?" "And same duration as myself," 𝘕𝘂𝑚 said. The prosecutor asked, "Was Miss Maxwell's hairstyle in those days?" 𝘕𝘂𝑚 said she changed a lot, like most women. 𝘠𝑚𝐴 then asks, "Can you identify Miss Maxwell if you see her in the courtroom by a piece of clothing?" 𝘕𝘂𝑚, "She's in the corner," that's what he says, "in the white sweater and the dark hair." And 𝘠𝐤 says, "Let the record reflect the witness has identified the defendant." 𝘕𝘂𝑚, "The only time Epstein didn't take a private jet was when the Concorde was flying. Miss Maxwell used airlines sometimes in the late 1990s. She had an option on a quarter share of a private jet." 𝘕𝘂𝑚, "For domestic flight, I didn't need to know who was flying in my plane." And 𝘠𝘏𝑚𝐴 asked, "So did you get all the names?" 𝘕𝘂𝑚 said, "I did not. There was NYC, Palm Beach, Santa Fe, actually Stanley, New Mexico, an apartment in Paris, and an island in St. Thomas." 𝘠𝘏𝑚𝐴 then asked, "Can you describe the interior of Mr. Epstein's Palm Beach residence?" 𝘕𝘂𝑚 says, "A master bedroom, 3 guest bedrooms, there's a Florida room, which I guess in New York you'd call a family room, a butler's pantry, a 3-car garage." 𝘠𝘏𝑚𝐴, the prosecutor, then asked, "Who drove Mr. Epstein up to his plane?" 𝘕𝘂𝑚 says, "Juan comes to mind, but others too." "And in New York?" And 𝘕𝘂𝑚 replied, "Manhattan, 9 East 71st Street. 𝘠𝘏𝑚𝐴 then asked, "And what did you do at the 9th East 71st Street?" And 𝘕𝘂𝑚 said, "Pick up luggage and install video equipment." 𝘠𝘏𝑚𝐴 then asked, "Which airport did you use?" He replies, "Teterboro, and then Newark or JFK with a larger plane." And then that's where the Judge Nathan, called time and called it for a day. So that was pretty much a prelude for tomorrow, as we will hear more from Mr. Larry 𝘕𝘂𝑚, the pilot, in the first witness called upon the Ghislaine Maxwell trial. So as you can see, there wasn't too much to that, but I imagine there's going to be a lot more juicy details tomorrow, because it's the beginning of that witness account, and he saw a lot of coordination, a lot of particular celebrities. The flight logs will be utilized in this trial. So as we progress in the trial, I would imagine it's going to get more saucy, lots of sauce. All right, proceeding in, and I believe I can call that for the Daily TrafficK as well. So proceeding with the Daily TrafficK report. This is a very sick story, so brace yourselves. Hey, Boss Supreme, thank you so much for modding for me tonight. I really appreciate it. All right, proceeding on with the Daily TrafficK. Florida man is charged with 1,200 counts of sexual assault and incest with a minor. Was actually reported over the Thanksgiving holiday, and it just made me absolutely sick. But this is what's out there, and this was only reported because he was confiding in a pastor, a church pastor, in which the church pastor was like, "You might want to report yourself to the authorities because this is pretty grave." A Florida man has been charged with 1,200 counts of sexual assault and incest involving a minor. This is coming from the New York Post. Robert Cota, 31 years old, of Pensacola, was charged with 600 counts of sexual assault on a victim between the ages of 12 and 18, and 600 counts of incest that allegedly took place over the last 6 years. Cota was reported to police by a local pastor who told deputies that Cota had approached him last Sunday saying he had issues with one of the beliefs outlined in the church guidebook. He said specifically pointed to the word incest. According to arresting documents obtained by WEAR-TV. After further conversation, the pastor told Cota that he needed to report himself to the authorities. The pastor later provided Cota's information to Escambia County Sheriff's Office. According to the arrest report, the victim told authorities that she had sexual encounters with Cota since she was 7 years old. The girl said that Cota told her the sexual acts were how to show affection. In September of 2020, the victim's mother confronted Cota about having sexual relationship with the girl. According to the arrest report, in response, Cota pointed a gun at the girl and was arrested for aggravated assault and domestic violence while authorities began investigating the sexual assault and incest allegations. Both 𝐂𝐡 and the victim reportedly told the mother of the sexual relationship before taking back their statements after the incident, police said. When deputies arrived to arrest 𝐂𝐡 for sexual assault and incest, he reportedly told them he was not surprised about the accusations. He was booked at the 𝐓𝐫𝐿𝐵𝐴 County Jail where his bond was set at $3,000. Now, this is really, I agree. This is, I can't even, I mean, how he must have fear-based coerced this victim is pretty, it could pretty be, it must be that detrimental for them not to come forward after 1,000 counts. That's 1,200 counts we're counting here, 1,200, where he assaulted this victim since she was 7 years old. And I mean, this man must be outside his mind to even think that he had that sort of argument with the pastor, because if you recall back in the article, he says that he had a problem with one of the church's guidelines. This is what it says. 𝐂𝐡 was reported to police by a local pastor who told deputies that 𝐂𝐡 had approached him last Sunday saying he had issues with one of the beliefs outlined in the church guideline book. He specifically pointed out the word incest, according to arresting documents obtained by 𝑊𝑒𝑟-TV. So if it wasn't for this heroic pastor who reported him to the authorities, nobody probably would have known about these really egregious crimes that he was committing against this child. 1,200 counts of assault. So thank God for that pastor for reporting this crime. This is just, I mean, imagine that if this wasn't reported by the pastor, how would we have ever known? How would this have ever been reported to the police? It's incredible to me how dark this world is. Okay, more of this child exploitation. This is coming from dailypost.ng. So this is going to be based in, I believe, in Nigeria. Undercover police brothel owners make millions as child prostitution, sex trafficking reign in Osun. And I just want to clarify, you know, they call it child prostitution. I don't think that children even have any sort of, you know, place to be called a prostitute, because it's not their choice. It's against their will. And they are coerced and groomed into this nature if they are doing that. So I don't believe that there are child prostitutes. That's my opinion. I believe that they are all victims. They are rape victims. In this undercover investigation, our reporter Sekiro Obaragis exposed how security operatives abet child prostitution trafficking and make millions off of Naira from the illegal activities in Osun communities. Sometime in early 2021, a 17-year-old girl, Victoria, who came from southern Nigeria, followed a boyfriend to an Osun community in search of a greener pasture. After she was maltreated and sent out in the street by her boyfriend, the teenager met a young woman in Osun community offering her woman's job with no further explanation about the offer. Victoria was later invited to Elisa by a young lady identified as a Precious, where she would start a woman's job. Victoria had told Precious, who claimed she was 22 years old, about her inability to gather fare from Osogbo to Elisa, in which the lady promised to settle the fare after meeting her at the park. So it sounds to me so far that there was two tactics. Number one was a boyfriend pimp, Romeo pimp, as they called him. Romeo pimping is when a trafficker, a pimp, will ensorcel the victim by making them think that they're in love. They will love bomb them. They will probably buy them gifts. They will tell them that they are the best in the world, basically what a boyfriend does, And so what happens is When boyfriend pimps and sorcel the victims, they get them entrapped, they get them, love bonded and all that, emotionally bonded. So then they can turn them over to the life, which is called sex trafficking. And sometimes they will enable or they will perpetuate this cycle by enlisting a sort of madame type figure, and so that's what it sounds like here, that this madame like figure then, kind of perpetuated this by saying, hey, I'll pay your fare, I'll take care of you, all these things, I'm your friend, that's what happens. Victoria eventually met with Precious, who is a sex worker in 𝐓𝐫𝐫𝐻𝐫 area in the 𝐓𝐫𝐫𝐫. The brothel is one of the few high numbers of underage girls trafficked from eastern and northern parts of the country. So the child trafficking, according to the United Nations organization, you guys know what I feel about the United Nations. I don't have to really tell you by the tone of my voice, you already know. Refers to the recruitment, harboring, transporting, provision, obtaining, patronizing, or soliciting of a minor for the purpose of exploitation, forced labor, slavery, and commercial sex act. Sex trafficking, on the other hand, is a human trafficking for the purpose of sexual exploitation, sexual slavery, which is a form of modern slavery. There are no laws against prostitution in Nigeria about age or consent, but according to the UN, it is illegal when someone is harboring, transporting for the purpose of exploitation of forced labor for commercial purposes. So, meanwhile, the security operatives in Osun community have been exploiting and benefiting from sexual escapades of the little girls. Sources told a reporter that police makes millions of naira weekly from aiding the act. Naira, I am going to imagine, is the currency used in Nigeria. Now, ironically, let me just state this. Ironically, there are NGOs that have been alleged and accused, not necessarily in Nigeria, but in generic terms, they have been accused of exploiting children or, exploiting young women for sex, for the trade of, basic needs like food, water, things of that nature. So, I find that quite ironic, and it's actually been UN peacekeepers, or I don't know if they're called peacekeepers, UN watchdogs, or, whatever you call them, soldiers, of doing this type of thing. So I just find that piece ironic. That's just a little info for you guys to know. These operatives, who are the security forces there, are in cahoots with the owners of the brothel, therefore thereby exploiting, harboring, and obtaining from sex workers. According to Daily Post findings, the brothels, especially in 𝐓𝐫𝐫𝐫, have huge patronage due to high number of underage girls. The owner of the brothel, popularly called by the name of the brothel, 𝐓𝐫𝐫𝐫, makes about 1 million naira weekly from the girls. The sex economy. The two brothels under investigation were mixed with aged women and young girls, some of whom were underage. A source who is familiar with the business said that the girls have been trained. And this is typically the case with, certain cultures. The girls have been trained to lie, and they are good at what they do, the source said. So sometimes what happens is either they are trained by coercion or by fear-based coercion as well, to say certain things, or coached to certain scripts, how to say, respond to questions, things of that nature. Either they're doing it that way, or they are groomed by familial. So meaning that the family will do this if they are impoverished and, from day one. And this is sad, but again, we have to talk about it. From day one, they will groom, their said family member, either it's their daughter, their niece, their granddaughter, whatever it is in their family, to accept this type of exploitation, that this is a way of life. This is the way you will grow up. This is what happens. And, you're just going to allow it. This is very sad, but this is culturally what happens in some impoverished areas of the world. 𝐓𝐫𝐫𝐫 has over 50 rooms, all partitioned with iron panels. The owner of the facility, it was uncovered, slammed cruel punishment for any of the occupants that go against the rules. This is the 𝐓𝐫𝐫𝐫 brothel partitioned with an iron panel. Guys, you are not going to find this news anywhere else. You are not going to find this news anywhere else. Please take a moment to like, this pod, like the video if you're watching on video, share it, and tell somebody about this channel, tell somebody about this podcast, because you are not going to find this news anywhere else. I almost guarantee you. So this is the brothel. And for those of you that are listening by audio podcast, I will describe it. It looks like just basically tin. They just staple tin as partitions, and they have makeshift rooms. We cannot go outside to buy this, what his mother sells through her. Things are expensive, where her price 3 times higher than the normal price. Even with that, anybody caught buying things outside will be fined. The fine is always monetary, says a sex worker lamented. Many of the girls living in the brothel say they face different challenges. None of the girls are allowed to raise the alarm or create any scene. We all face our own businesses. Everyone has been careful here and afraid of being caught in anything that will make 𝘏𝑗𝑗 or 𝘓𝑗𝑗 lock your door. Another sex worker revealed. One of the underage girls said, I have been fined, I believe, in their currency, 50,000 before I begged him for everything. They will lock you in your room if you commit any offense. I didn't work for about a week until I paid him 37,000 currency with several pleas. Further findings revealed that each sex worker makes a return of 2,500, which I believe is, just in ratio to what they were saying, very, 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 very slim to none, to the brothel, which adds up to 125,000 currency daily. With a calculation of 50 rooms, that's 875,000 weekly, and about 3,750,000 monthly. I don't know what that translates in their currency, but that's what they claim. A security source told a Medium that those brothels would not have been functional without the backing of the security operatives, adding that there is a high possibility of evolving other illicit activities such as baby factories and harboring criminal elements. And you guys can see the brothel right here with one of the sex workers hanging out in the front. The crux of child prostitution and trafficking. I am too young to be doing this job. That's why police come to collect money from us every week in order to protect us from being arrested, says Doris, an underage or a child sex worker in Osun metropolis, southwest of Nigeria. She was trafficked from Kiwande local government in Benue State to a brothel named 𝘓𝑗𝑗 in Ilesa. As a young sex worker, Doris gets more patronage and bid higher from her customers than the older ones. She has a mother, which is her aunt from a maternal family. Mother in brothels, a benefactor, a guardian angel. Those are who were brought in the individuals. Every daughter contributes to their daily earnings to their mother, so basically a madame. That's how they act. So again, this is just very, very heart-wrenching details coming from, Nigeria. But, I say this, I explain these stories because this is not just happening in Nigeria. As you guys know, this is happening in every single country, just because it is very covert and hidden and paid off in other countries, and more well hidden in more countries. It's not saying that it doesn't happen. And I would even argue that this also happens in the United States. There are just very intricate and sophisticated ways to cover these things up. But security forces being implicated in this does not surprise me. All right. So we're going to move on and pivot. I know it's happening every day. This is off of the Spanish coast. This is coming from splash247.com. Spanish police uncover human trafficking operation on board livestock carrier. Spanish police arrested the captain of a livestock carrier which arrived in Cartagena from Libya on Saturday, cracking a human trafficking case. A Guardia Civil team found 8 Syrians on board who had been working as forced labor without the right training or documents. The Syrians had been working on the ship under exploitative labor conditions for several months. Spanish police said that many had paid up to 13,000 euro for a promised transfer to Europe, but were subsequently forced to work at sea. This is typically always the same. It's the same thing that happens over and over again. This is the same tactic that happens from, Latin America, Mexico, mainly Latin America, that pay coyotes to, move them to the United States or smuggle them to the United States. They pay a fee, and after paying that fee, they get exploited, and they say, "Oh, you didn't pay. You paid the peso, or you paid the other currency, and you actually owe us a lot more money. So therefore, you have to work your way off. You have to work your way out of your debt." And so therefore, they enslave them either into forced labor, commercial sex acts, forced sexual servitude, those type of things. And they will implicate children in this whole thing as well. So again, another information bit, but this is always the same scam, just a different setting. This just happens to be in the setting of, forced labor on a ship. But again, they paid money to be smuggled into Europe, but then they got forced labor. So they got scammed out of their money, and then they got forced into forced labor. Collaboration between European agencies revealed the ship would have changed its name up to 3 times, making it difficult to track and monitor, the Guardia Civil said. The ship's captain was arrested on suspicion of belonging to a criminal organization, violating the rights of foreign citizens, and falsifying official documents. And that is the end of the story. So, all right, this is a huge story coming out of, worldwide. And this is more so, but I think they made this bust in India, but this is a online child sexual exploitation material type of thing that spanned in over 100 countries. Child sex racket busted by CBI's extends from Pakistan to the US, shares videos on social media. Now, you can only imagine what social media platforms would allow this, you might ask. Well, we can only imagine. You can use your imagination, right? But I would place my bets on some pretty known ones that are everyday platforms that we use. New Delhi, the Central Bureau of Investigation, CBI for short, Wednesday arrested 7 people as part of a crackdown on suspected international online child sexual exploitation network. The arrest followed the raids of 77 locations across 13 states and 1 union territory, with 2 others put behind bars on Thursday. The raids, the CBI said, were conducted after the discovery of an online child sexual abuse operation that allegedly involves more than 50 syndicates and 5,000 individuals spread across 100 countries. According to sources in the CBI, the nexus was engaged in the online distribution of child sexual exploitation material, CSEM for short, for monetary benefits. The illegal operation, the sources said, came to the CBI's notice about 3 months ago following an intensive intel collection and surveillance in the remotest areas of the country over a period of 3 months. The agency conducted raids at multiple locations on 14th of November, the source told the print. The raids in India were conducted on Andhra Pradesh, Uttar Pradesh, Punjab, Bihar, Odisha, Tamil Nadu, Rajasthan, Maharashtra, sorry if I butcher this again, Gujarat, Haryana, Chhattisgarh, Madhya Pradesh, and Himachal Pradesh, besides Delhi. The CBI said in a statement that it has seized numerous laptops, mobile phones, and other electronic gadgets during the raids. The agency has lodged 23 cases against 83 people, while 9 people have been arrested so far. A CBI source quoted above saying that more arrests are likely. So the initial inputs for the investigation, this is how they traced these perpetrators, or these, these people, these sick people who wanted the CSEM, child sexual exploitation material. This is how they found them. The initial inputs for the investigation, sources said they were provided by the online child sexual abuse and exploitation prevention investigation unit of the CBI, which was set up in 2019 to track and monitor posting, circulation, and downloads of CSEM on the internet. These sources added that the investigators followed the money. So they followed the money trail of e-wallets and bank accounts to nab the accused. The actual amount involved in the racket is still under investigation. A second source said, but confirmed that foreign funds were also tracked. The accused were disseminating the child abuse content online through links, videos, pictures, text posts, and hosting such things on social media platforms, the sources said. Again, you can use your imagination and imagine what social platforms those are. Probably some platforms that are accused over and over again of allowing this to happen. The FIR said individuals based in different parts of India and foreign countries were circulating, storing, and viewing child sexual exploitation material using social media groups, platforms, and third-party storage hosting platforms. So these are the countries. The suspected child sexual abuse network, the sources said, extends well beyond the borders of India and involve people from Pakistan, the United States, Canada, the UK, Nigeria, Ghana, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, Azerbaijan, I think it's pronounced, Egypt, Yemen, Malaysia, Indonesia, among other countries. So, you know, last year, let's see, according to Interpol, an estimated 2.4 million searches were made for child sexual abuse content in India between 2017 and 2020. 80% of the children were girls under the age of 14. The consent and consumers of child pornography are growing at a fast rate. One finding shows that search engines get over 1,000, I believe this is 1,160,000 queries related to child pornography every day. I mean, it's incredible, incredibly sick. So again, you're not going to hear this news anywhere else. Please be sure to share this with anybody who is interested in learning more of what's going on in our world, because this absolutely, again, must be talked about. But to genericize what just happened is that 5,000 people were found to be exploring child sexual exploitation material in over 100 countries, the United States being one of them. Some of the most sophisticated Western civilized countries, not civilized anymore, that were searching for this dark material. And this is just what happened. This is just another form of exploitation we don't talk about. Of course, there is, the physical sexual exploitation of children, but this is even more dire because not more or less dire, but I'm saying this is also a problem because these kids are being forced to stream this content. They're forced to do illicit things that they should never be doing, and engage in things that they should never be engaging. And this is streamed for sick people who want to buy this. All right. Coming from the Daily Mail, the next story, a teaching assistant is accused of filming himself raping a 6-year-old girl after a colleague found a mobile phone propped up near the school toilets. A teacher's assistant accused of raping a 6-year-old girl was allegedly only stopped when a teacher noticed the phone propped up and facing the school toilets. The 21-year-old allegedly filmed himself raping the young girl during the series of despicable sexual acts on children over 3 days, Brisbane Magistrates Court heard on Saturday. Police allege a year 3 teacher at Brisbane School, I believe this is in Australia, school found the phone and then called police, who confronted the aide. He allegedly confessed to a video on the phone showing him raping a female one student for about 10 minutes inside a toilet cubicle at the school. I mean, gosh, dude, like, the police searched the man's computer. They allegedly found 2 videos of the man allegedly abusing young girls, the Courier Mail reported. The police allege the man admitted to making the videos, which court documents say showed him making 2 young girls remove their clothes and being sexually interfered with. The offenses all occurred within 3 days, and the court heard his computers also allegedly contained pornographic cartoons depicting sex involving young children. That's enough. He tried to post for bail. They denied it, thank God. the defendant had a blue card, which is needed for work with children, but no criminal history. Again, that's enough detail. That's enough detail. That's enough. Oh gosh, this was not a good. This is not a good. It's just a lot. Too many reports. It's just too many reports. It's too many. It's just too many. It's too many reports. Like, I feel sick after it. Like, just so much darkness, It's too much sick, dark reports of this happening consecutively all across the world. This is sick. This is happening. Nobody's talking about it. Like, this is angering, like, the people who have no voice, the most vulnerable of our society, kids who have no voice. Like, this is just so angering. Anyway, I apologize, but this is so sad. It's so sick. And again, if we don't talk about it, if we don't podcast about it, we will never know that this is happening. All right, guys. I apologize that we have to go in such detail, but we have to have our hearts disturbed in order to act as a society. I appreciate you all. Thank you for tuning into Unravel with Natly Denise, Nightly with Natly, the Daily TrafficK, all segments of Unravel with Natly Denise. I truly appreciate you guys. Thank you so much for supporting the show as well. You can do so at natlydenise.com/donate or at paypal.me/NatlyDenise. That is, I am viewer funded, so anything helps. So I do appreciate you all in your support for my endeavors and keeping food on my table. Thank you so much for your love. Thank you so much for tuning into this. Please share this podcast with somebody because, again, we've got to know more. We've got to keep talking about this. I will talk to you guys in tomorrow's cast. I will be covering the Ghislaine Maxwell trial, and look out on my main channel for another video on the Epstein flight logs. I will catch you guys in the next podcast. I love you guys. Rest easy. Have a blessed night. See you tomorrow. Bye, guys.
Thank you so much for tuning into Unravel with Natly Denise. Please give this podcast 5 stars.